Hello and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Roy Cohen and I'll be hosting this particular show. Again, we're doing it virtually from home. Hopefully those days will be over soon. We just have to pray for those vaccines to start working. We're doing part 2 of our show with the Franklin Park Zoo. The first part, if you missed it, is very interesting. It shows you what's going on in there and how their animals are cared for, and narrated by none other than John Linehan. He's the president and CEO of Zoo New England, which consists of the Franklin Park Zoo and the Stone Zoo. So we're going to start off with a couple of the scenes that we had at the beginning, and we'll go from there.
Well, I think, as you pointed out, Roy, we've been going through a pandemic, and that has created a lot of challenge for a lot of people. One of the great things that we benefited by in particular is the fact that we're primarily an outdoor cultural attraction. And so we've had a lot of people coming to the zoo. Since July, it's over 500,000 between the two zoos. And everybody has been safe and healthy, and we've taken a lot of efforts to make sure that they stay that way. So we have you have to get your tickets advance online on our website, and it's for a particular day and a particular time when you come in. You can stay as long as you'd like, but it's a great day out with the family, and people have really, really appreciated it.
What's the difference between the two zoos?
They're very different. The animals that are in the two zoos are very different. Stone Zoo is a much smaller operation. It's only 26 acres, whereas Franklin Park is 72. And we have a lot of really different animals. For example, the big cats at Stone Zoo are jaguars and cougars and snow leopards. At Franklin Park, they're lions and tigers. So there's a lot of differences between them. They don't feel very similar at all. That's entering Stone Zoo right there. And the Stone Zoo guest services team, great bunch of people, and do an incredible job. But we've got a lot of great safety measures in place, and nobody, to our knowledge, nobody's gotten any exposures in the zoo.
Has the pandemic, has it affected the staffing level? Have you got full staff? Or
it does at times, because we have to be very careful with our animal care staff, because we can't afford to lose them all at once. So for a while, we were running 2 shifts where they're working completely separately. And, during closure, I had an awful lot of people who were working from home, and/or there were times when they had to take furloughs and be out of the zoo. So, it's really hard to reduce expenses in a zoo with all those living animals to take care of. But we found ways to reduce it. But we certainly suffered from short staffing for an awful lot of this time. And actually, at times, not for animal keeping positions, but for some of the custodial positions and security positions, we actually had to go outside and find private services to help us out.
Well, that's too bad. Well, hopefully everything's under control at this point.
We're in much better shape now. We brought on some incredibly talented people in the last couple of years in particular. Not that we already had some talented people, but we've added to them with some more talented people. And I think, we're in such a great direction. I'm so excited about how many great things are happening at the zoo. We won't talk about them all today, but there are going to be a lot more to talk about in the future.
Sounds great. We'll have to get you back to take care of that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to There's no other place in New England that brings this much joy to children and adults alike. That constantly surprises you no matter how many times you visit. That makes you feel more connected to the natural world than you ever thought possible. The Franklin Park Zoo in Boston and the Stone Zoo in Stoneham have been entertaining, inspiring, and delighting people of all ages for over a century. Over the last 3 years, nearly 2 million guests passed through our gates. Zoo New England, which maintains both zoos, is committed to providing one-of-a-kind, immersive, hands-on experiences to each and every visitor. At the same time, we also create the kind of meaningful connection that very few other places can duplicate. Zoo New England's mission is to preserve and protect all the Earth's creatures, whether through new features, exceptional animal care, exciting exhibits, or revolutionary partnerships with local institutions, like our One Health clinical elective with Harvard Medical School. We're always looking for new ways to further our mission of saving animals from extinction and to make our zoos must-see attractions. Of course, we're also deeply connected to the community. Our Zoo Teen program gives local teens direct exposure to careers in science, while the 5th Quarter of Learning program builds students' interest in science learning. On the environmental front, our grassroots wildlife conservation helps protect and preserve threatened plant and animal species here in eastern Massachusetts. And our Hatch program allows students to raise hatchling turtles in the classroom and then release them into the wild once they are at a size where they have a better chance of survival. Our commitment to conservation reaches beyond local. It has a global impact. Snow leopards to gorillas to Panamanian golden frogs, our work helps researchers in the field better understand and protect species in their native habitats. Zoo New England is proud to offer programs and opportunities to everyone who cares about wildlife as much as we do. Now we invite you to join us in our quest to strengthen the bonds between people and nature, to teach every generation to love and respect the world around them, and to secure a healthy future for them and us.
It's very nice. You know, I'm curious. You don't get involved with training any of these animals like Siegfried and Roy or anything like that. They're basically there for display, and I would assume that's the case. Is that right?
Yeah, we don't train for shows, but we do some what's called operant conditioning to facilitate medical care of the animals. So the fact that some animals, like for example, I can get those, not me, my staff can get those gorillas to come up and press their chest against the mesh, and they can actually do a cardiac ultrasound on them while they hold their chest there for them.
Huh.
Or the lion, for example, might flip its tail out under the door and allow the staff to draw blood to see how its organs are functioning. So we do some training, some operant conditioning, which is based in positive reinforcement. So they get treats as they learn. And this does take months quite often, but you know, to have a lion, you bring it up and you tell it to sit, and then you give it a treat, and then you tell it to lie down and you give it a treat. Then you get it to roll over and you give it a treat, and then you have it flip its tail out under the door and you hold it and you stick a needle in it, and they all based on positive reinforcement. The animals love participating in those training sessions. And in fact, sometimes we have competition if there's more than one animal that wants to do it.
Huh. But that kind of keeps them going. That's interesting. You do train them to react to their needs as far as
Right.
medical care and stuff.
It's not about putting on a show. It's about taking better care of them.
That's
So
good.
if you can draw blood before you have to anesthetize an animal, it's going to be much better off if we know how all of its organs are functioning and what its health status is. You know, it all helps us before we do the anesthesia if we have to do one.
Yeah. One of the things that we didn't get to with our previous show, because we just kind of ran out of time, was the zoo lights. What's that all about?
Zoo lights is it's a long-standing tradition at Stone Zoo. It started out actually with a private gentleman named Skip Labrie, who brought his private collection of lights to the zoo. And because it was getting too big in his neighborhood and costing him too much for police details. And we put it up in the zoo, and we've just grown it since then, and people just love it. And so this last year, we did a light show at Franklin Park. It was actually a Chinese Lantern Festival. And that is something we did for the first time. And people sold out every single night from August 15th to November 15th. And so it gives us more time of the day to use the zoo and to benefit people with the zoo. But Zoo Lights, as I said, that's been going for 24 years and is such a huge family tradition. It just ended last weekend, and Boston Lights ended in November. But that'll be coming back next summer again, and Zoo Lights will be back next fall, right about Thanksgiving. So these are just alternative ways that the zoo can meet people's needs and help to support the zoo.
Are they free admission for that, or?
No, it's definitely not free admission for either of them. They both cost us a lot of money to put on.
Okay.
And so we have to earn revenue in order to maintain the zoos and to maintain the animals. So we get creative in how we can raise revenue so we can continue to do the important work we're doing.
Excellent. Why don't we start to show what they look like?
Sure. I'd like to recognize National Grid, which sponsored both of those programs, Boston Lights and Zoo Lights. But Zoo Lights, it's truly a winter experience. Usually we have Santa Claus there, but this year Santa was taking a COVID break, so you could actually meet with Santa online, or some of the animals. But it's just we at Stone Zoo, we talked about the differences. We have a lot more cold hardy animals there. You just saw Arctic fox. We have Canada lynx. We have cougars and bears and all things that can take the cold weather better than some of the African animals that are at Franklin Park. But it's a very different experience, both of them. That's an Arctic fox at Zoo Lights. You can see some of the lights behind it, and they can take any cold we can throw at them. But you can see that he's got that beautiful white coat, but in the summer that all sheds out and he gets a brown coat. So he blends in year round. And we're trying to breed some Arctic fox right now. So fingers crossed on that. But it's a beautiful animal and one that has been hunted rather extensively for that beautiful coat.
Yeah, I understand that we owe thanks to Sean Brown for this particular photo.
The animals do an amazing job of adapting to some of our evening programs. The ones that get to see it at all, a lot of them might be in their night housing, but in other cases they're out there. Those are not real moose, obviously, but it's a really fun experience that families really enjoy. And I know Stoneham is a little hike from Stoughton, but people make that trip from long distances to get to both of these programs, actually from all over New England and beyond. We had a lot of New Yorkers this year. I think maybe they thought it was safer in Massachusetts than New York.
Yeah, sure. Have to ask the mayor about that.
Yeah.
What about the time on this? When do they start? When is it over?
Sure. Zoo Lights usually starts at 5 p.m. I think we started a little earlier this year, so we have to close down the daytime admission, and then it goes till like 8:30. And it runs roughly from Thanksgiving to New Year's normally. As I said, we added on a couple of extra weeks this year. And our other show, Boston Lights, goes until 10:30 at night. Yeah, that's another shot of Zoo Lights. You can see the way people are bundled up. You do have to bundle up and come out and enjoy the winter, but that's where you're walking through a little forested area, and it's all lit up, and that's not too far from the Arctic fox.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a wonderful stroll with the family. There's a lot of interactives throughout it. Normally, one of the things we couldn't do this year that we normally do is we have fire pits where people can grab hot chocolate and stand around fire pits, and we often have choral groups that come in and sing Christmas carols and that sort of thing. And we get a really diverse set of entertainers that come in and just want to show off their skills. Sure. And share them with our visitors.
And that's another picture we credit Sean Brown.
Yes, that's a cabin, and that's on our Yukon Creek Trail. And inside that cabin are a whole bunch of stuffed animals and other things, having a big party in there, a Christmas or a holiday party. So that's near the Arctic fox and near the reindeer. We have reindeer, and under normal years without COVID, people get to get their picture taken with a reindeer as well. Yep, that's another area of the forest. That's a beautiful tree right in front of us. If you could see the whole tree, it's huge. And again, this is almost like just a wonderfully whimsical walk through the forest with these trees that are all lit up. You walk by porcupines and lynx, Canada lynx, all animals that are very cold hardy and animals that are well adapted to our environment. Eventually you get to the black bears up that way. Yeah, no, this is early in the evening. These are our flamingos. We have a very large flock of some 50 Caribbean flamingos, and they're amazingly winter hardy as long as you keep the water from freezing. And so they stay out almost all year round. We have a building they can go into, but they prefer to stay out. And they are, they're not only brightly colored, but they're also very vocal. So that's the species that welcomes you when you get to Stone Zoo. And it's a walk-through aviary, so you're in with them with a little rail in between. But absolutely magnificent birds. And over the years, we've hatched a lot of flamingos in Stone Zoo, believe it or not. I think it's over 100, many of whom have gone off to other zoos.
Right. They don't fly.
Well, they can, some of them can fly, but they take flamingos because of, it gets technical. They need a long runway to take off. So we designed the exhibit so they can't get in the air, but they are contained within a large area aviary. If they ever did take off, they have to turn and come back.
Interesting. What do I see on the leg there? Is that some kind of an identification band?
Yeah, that's called an ID band. And you can see the one that's even closer to us actually has 2 bands on the right. And the metal band is a permanent band with a number on it. And the colored bands also those are temporary bands with another number on it. But each of these animals has a permanent ID. That's all very important for the management of the animals. So we know which animal came from which pair, which was it hatched from, who are his parents, eventually who are his offspring or her offspring. And so one little trick, as you look at any of our birds that have bands, their permanent band, if it's a male, is always put on their right leg, and their permanent band, if they're a female, is put on their left leg. So it gives you a little sneak peek to get an idea of what sex you're looking at.
Interesting. This is a pretty path.
Yeah, that's another beautiful path through the forest. It's as I say, it's a beautiful, aesthetically just pleasant experience. But then there's a lot of activity. We often have rides of various sorts, which we cut out this year as well. Everything from a carousel to some other rides that kids enjoy. And between that and the gift shop and the carousel, the fire pits, the choral singers, it's really a wonderful experience.
Nice. You don't have any rides there, do you?
We have small rides, kiddie rides. So we have a little train at Stone Zoo. We have some other kiddie type rides, but nothing that's overly dramatic. We have one little section for that.
You see
that's
that
a family all masked up, and their baby is obviously under 2, but it looks like it's at Franklin Park. Oh yeah, it's at the lion exhibit. You see the lion right behind his head?
Oh yeah.
He's up on his rock, and that rock is actually heated. So in the cold weather, the lions love laying up there because it's really warm. But we get a very diverse audience at Franklin Park.
What separates the patrons from the animals?
It varies, actually. In one area, you can see a little bit of it to the right of the little girl's head. We have a big moat that's 25 feet wide and 16 feet deep. But the angle we're at right now, it's glass. You see that little sticker above his head? That's to keep the birds from flying into the glass, the wild birds.
Oh, interesting. But you
it
have
just
a moat.
Gives them a little.
What happens if the moat freezes up?
Oh, it's called a dry moat, actually. We keep it pumped out. So there's wet moats and dry moats. There are a host of different ways of doing what's called animal containment. And a moat provides for great photo ops because you don't have any glass in between. Like this view, we're looking through glass. Yeah. And if you ever saw the glass on the lion exhibit, it's 3 layers of laminated glass that end up being over an inch thick, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick. And 1 square foot of it will actually weigh like 35 pounds. It's incredibly strong glass. I think one of the, I was talking in the last episode about how cute these baby animals are, but one of the interesting things is we have the cutest little kids that families bring to the zoo too. I always say we should have a cutest kid in the zoo contest because I see an awful lot of cute kids. And we have programs for people of all ages. It starts with we have programs for moms with strollers and little kids in strollers, all the way up to we have Harvard medical students who come in and learn at the zoo. So everything in between. We have a lot of programs for teens. This is a little girl next to Bubba, one of our black bears. We have two brothers who were orphaned in the wild, and Smokey and Bubba, and that's Bubba. And that little girl is just getting the thrill of a lifetime. It's, how can she ever get closer to a bear than that? Smokey and Bubba are a couple of clowns. Those two brothers are, they love to play. Oh, there's Smokey in the back. You can see him. Yeah, sitting up against the fence, probably scratching his back. And Bubba came up front.
Interesting. Okay, that takes care of the beers.
That's a couple of young people. I think one of the things that this makes me think of is the zoos have become really popular date sites. And, it's one of those things that you couldn't find an easier place to have a first date if you're just getting to know somebody, because you both have an awful lot to talk about just with the stuff you're experiencing together.
Sure.
So we're seeing more and more young people really coming to the zoo, people like this that are on dates, and especially we've done more and more programming for them as well. We actually have a young professionals organization, and they help organize some social gatherings. I noticed that young lady had a mask on that looks like it was the USC Trojans from California. She had a little. We do get a lot of folks from out of state coming.
Yeah.
Another family, that's a view of our giraffes, and they are reaching over the wires and getting some of the greens on the outside of the exhibit. But we have a huge giraffe exhibit. We have a couple of young giraffes. The female, the one on the left, was actually born at the zoo, and the one on the right came all the way from California as part of one of those species survival plans. Because of his genetics and her genetics, they were a perfect match. And we're hoping we have something in the oven as we speak.
Interesting. Do you have a program where you swap animals with other zoos?
Exactly. That's what those SSP, species survival plans, are all about. We are continuously swapping animals with other zoos on a very organized basis. These are other zoos that are accredited by AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and both of our zoos are accredited by AZA, which is a really, really rigorous process, the hardest process in the world. So because it's so rigorous, a number of non-American zoos have joined it. There are many Canadian zoos in AZA. It's part of North America, but we're swapping animals with zoos throughout North America. We've even sent, for example, Mexican wolves back to Mexico. That's one where there's an active reintroduction program, and animals or their offspring are probably reintroduced now back into the wild in Mexico. And there's a young man with a peacock in the background. And I think I remember when this photo was taken. This was shortly after we reopened, after the long period of closure. And we have about a half dozen peacocks that just roam the grounds. And people get to interact with them, get to see them fan out those beautiful feathers when it's breeding season.
Yeah.
And
we
a day at the zoo is
Smith for that one.
What's that?
Well, I said we thank Brittany Smith.
Yeah, I think one thing that has become apparent to me is a day at the zoo is one of those days that you build some really lifelong memories with your kids or your grandkids or your friends. Those shared experiences are something that you never forget, and I still carry them with me from my youth. Another family or families, they're near the giraffe exhibit. As I say, lots and lots of families, a very diverse audience that visits Franklin Park, and it's just a great day out. And that's behind that hill is the giraffe exhibit. But we have a lot of opportunities for people to have a great time and with so many different kinds of animals and so many different kinds of experiences that we have at the zoo.
All right, John, I think we've just about reached the end. I got one more picture, and this is the adios picture.
That's one of our educators, and she is great. So if you're ever at the zoo, she's there in front of the hyena exhibit, actually.
Yeah.
And she does incredible education programs and is very, very personable. I think she probably taking care of doing some cleaning for COVID cleaning.
Oh, whatever. John, I thank you very much for your time, and we'll look forward to doing this again when you have more stuff to show.
And it won't be long, Roy. We've got a lot of stuff in the hopper.
Excellent.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for a great
job. Thank you for surviving the pandemic. Hope everybody in the family is doing well, and
same to you. And I hope all of our viewers are staying as healthy as possible.
Correct. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.